Doom Vivamus Vivamus Epicureans. This is the BCE Comics Pod one-shot edition. I'm your host, Nick Smith, and I'm joined by...
Stojr from Stojr Shelf. How's it going, Nick?
Good, except I, of course, forgot to change the slide again. But anyway, we are participating in Kurtis Findlay's Epic Marvel Podcast Reading Club, and this one-shot is going to be our brief thoughts on today's issue, which is Uncanny X Men number 164, Binary Star. Alright, so the X-Men managed to escape the Brood star system. However, they begin to notice some changes. Carol Danvers, for example, seems to be tapping into an otherworldly energy, and is now calling herself binary. The rest of the X-Men are noticing their bodies aren't behaving the same way, and Wolverine finally comes clean with what he knows, that the X-Men have all been infected with a Brood hatchling. Alright, Stojr, what are your thoughts?
Fun issue. Action continues. Love the cover. I love the first page with sort of the reintroduction of the characters. I thought that was a very classic feel. You get all the floating heads with the labels of who they are. I think that my impression is that Cockrum really loves this space stuff. It's what we associate with him. So, for me, thinking about him, drawing this issue, it really makes me think that he was just having a blast throughout with all this stuff. I like some of the panel layouts on page 254 and 244 and 245, where there's a bunch of different shapes than what you're typically used to. It's not just your typical squares and things like that. You get little hexagons and whatnot. And I always sort of enjoy the weirdness of, because it never stops looking weird to me, but the Shi'ar spaceships, or spacesuits rather, and how bug-like they look. I like the little interlude with Professor X and Magic, or I'm sorry, not Magic, Illyana, kind of sitting down having dinner. I'm never a big fan of aging characters up. I think I mentioned this before when we reviewed the other issue, and how with the John Kent Superman, I think that was a mistake, and there's some other characters I think aging them up is a mistake. But with this, at least I completely understand. They're setting up a whole new book that she's going to be a part of. Somebody mentioned on YouTube that she's not she's not an official member of New Mutants, which, is probably kicking off any month now, in comics time, but until issue 14 or 15. However, she's there from the beginning, whether she's an official team member or not. She's in issue 1 of that book, as you go forward. I like the internal struggle that Wolverine has with what's going on. He's getting really confused with what he's supposed to do with the X-Men, because in his eyes he's gonna have to kill them all, or something. He's stuck, and not really sure how to address it. I'm confused though with Storm's precognition. I don't understand what's going on with Storm, and I won't understand what's going on with the space whales in the next couple issues. She's obviously suffering with this brood growing inside of her, but then she's able to sense it and thinks she has a child, and how does she have the ability to do that? And then she just flies off into space, but she doesn't know that the brood infect people yet. So why is she running away?
I wonder, and this is a thought that only just occurred to me, right? We have 3 women with the group right now, right? Kitty Pryde is awfully young, right? She's probably just now going through puberty with her age. Carol Danvers has not been infected by the Brood, right? Because she's just been turned into this star thing, or did they infect her too?
I'm trying to remember, because I read this last week. Was she able to burn it out of her because of what she is, or is she just not infected? I forget.
I was under the impression she was not infected, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
I could be wrong about that. So I'm wondering if that means this is we have dudes writing this, right? And I wonder, and this is the early 80s. I wonder if this is just the notion of, it's women's motherly intuition in Storm, that if there's something inside her, then naturally it's a baby, right? And so thus the natural women's I'm doing air quotes for those of you just listening to listening to the audio of this, but the natural woman's protection, her intuition is kicking in with her wanting to protect her quote unquote baby. I don't know, because it's not spelled out like that, but I kind of wonder if maybe that's what's actually the interpretation here.
Yeah. I'm not really sure,
Yeah,
but like it just gets weirder with like the space whales in the next issue or the issue after that too. So like I just I'm trying to save my commentary to the appropriate spot overall. But as much fun as I'm having with some of this, I don't feel like the resolution that we will eventually see makes any sense. With some of this stuff. And I guess the last thing is like, what the hell's Carol doing? She just like bursts into binary mode and flies out the side of the ship, causes a giant hole for no reason. Like that's
irresponsible of her.
A bit. And as a military woman, you would think that she would know better. But anyway, what were your thoughts?
Honestly, I think some of what you're saying kind of gets to my point with this one, because you keep talking about what the resolution's going to be, and we haven't gotten to it yet. I feel like this issue kind of drags it out, honestly. Yes, we're carrying the plot along, but it's dragging. It's just expanding without actually going anywhere. I think the one big step we have is that the X-Men finally figure out they're infected by the Brood, so that's good. But now I want to know what's going to happen. Are they going to turn into these aliens? So it seems like we're dragging. That's my thought on this one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think there's another subtle thing that ramps up more in the next issue, which is kind of go and especially notice this about flipping through or reading through it a second time. But it's just like the way Cyclops interacts with people, and that starts to ramp up in the next issue. But there's little hints of it here too, and how he's a little bit more short-tempered, let's call it.
Yeah, so little angrier than he has been previously.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, well, if you guys enjoy our thoughts, again, go ahead and follow us on YouTube. We're going to read, rate, and review a full Epic Collection trade paperback once a month, or maybe something beyond Epics coming in the near future. These one-shots will come out every day, so again, leave us a message, let us know what you like, give us any insights that you have. We appreciate it. All right, thank you very much. We'll see you guys next time.